Same insurance, same prices, same company nobody could remember the name of. Then one duck showed up and the sales went damn near vertical. Not a better policy or a cheaper one, a duck. Now there's 1,000 videos out there calling that duck the greatest mascot in advertising history, and they're not wrong. But every one of them tells it as a cute little marketing story and skips the only number that actually matters. And that is that 9 years after spending real money on real campaigns, barely 1 in 10 Americans could remember this company's name. Single digits. 4 years after the duck, nearly everybody. So the real question isn't why the duck was funny. It's how is a company that was already big and winning in its group could still be invisible? And what one screaming cartoon bird understood that 9 years of grown-ups with ad budgets didn't. Stick around, because what that duck actually pulled off is something you can use yourself on Monday morning. Okay, here's a quick thing to keep in your back pocket, because we'll get back to it. The single biggest piece of money this all-American duck was about to print wasn't even in America. Hold on to that thought, but let's rewind first to 1955. 3 brothers, John, Paul, and Bill Amos, set up a shop in a little 6-room office in Columbus, Georgia, and they start selling insurance door to door. Small-time stuff. But John Amos has an eye, and in 1958 they do something genuinely clever. They start selling cancer insurance. Now, not the kind that pays the hospital, the kind that pays you in cash when the worst lands on your kitchen table. And at the time, nobody's really done that yet. And it works. They sell it at the work site through payroll deductions, a few bucks a paycheck, and they grow and grow. And by the end of the 90s, this little Georgia outfit is moving $8.5 billion a year and sitting on $37 billion in assets. Now that ain't a startup, that is a giant that no one could name. They couldn't name the company because it was called the American Family Life Assurance Company of Columbus, and you can't fit that on a coffee mug. Well, they ended up boiling it down to an acronym, AFLAC, but that didn't help much either because Aflac doesn't mean anything. It's a noise. And for 9 straight years they advertised and got their name recognition up to about 6 or 7%. Now, you could burn a Super Bowl's worth of advertisement money and still have 9 people out of 10 go, "What?" every time you said Aflac. So in 1999, the CEO, Dan Amos, hands the whole problem to an executive named Kathleen Amos and says, "Fix it. Make us a household name." She brings in a scrappy New York ad shop, the Kaplan Thaler Group, and what happens next is so dumb it's almost beautiful. So the creative team is sitting around just fried, trying to crack how do you make anybody remember this impossible name. And someone keeps saying it out loud, Aflac, Aflac, Aflac. And then one of them finally goes, "You sound like a duck." And that's it. That's the whole multi-billion-dollar idea. The name was so hard to remember, they handed it to an animal that literally cannot say anything else. Now flash forward to January 1st, 2000. A duck waddles to a park bench where 2 guys are mumbling about insurance and just starts screaming the company name. Voiced, by the way, by Gilbert Gottfried, which, if you've ever heard Gilbert Gottfried, was either a stroke of genius or a cry for help. But inside the company, the people hated it. There's a room full of dead serious finance guys staring at a cartoon duck thinking that everyone has lost their minds. No, they had not, in fact, lost their minds. The first day the ad runs, Aflac pulls more traffic to its website than it had in the entire previous year. That year, U.S. sales jumped 26%. Recruiting, the people lining up to sell the stuff, that was up 20%. By 2004, that 6 or 7% name recognition, that jumped to 90. Sales doubled within 3 years. And if you'd put your money where the duck was, over the next 20 years, that stock climbed 325%, while the S&P did 124. So what actually happened here? It certainly wasn't the insurance. I mean, let's be honest. Supplemental insurance is about as thrilling as a tax form, and Aflac's was no better or no worse than the next guy's. When everybody's product is basically the same, you'd figure the winner is whoever's product is just a little bit better. Well, that ain't it. The winner is whoever the customer remembers when the moment comes. There's a fancy term for it, mental availability, but skipping over the jargon, what it means is this. The duck didn't change anything, not a policy or a price or anything to do with the insurance. All it changed was whether or not your brain coughed up the word Aflac at the exact second you needed to sign up for supplemental insurance. That's the whole game. And now that thing I told you to keep in your back pocket, here's your payoff. That All-American Duck, that down-home Georgia insurance company, most of its money comes from Japan. In the mid-2000s, right as the duck was peaking, roughly 3/4 of Aflac's revenue came out of Japan, where it had quietly been the king of cancer insurance for years. And the duck, well, he flew over to Japan and became a full-blown superstar over there too. It turns out, impossible to forget transcends language. So here's what that means for the rest of us. The easy lesson, the one every other analysis stops at, is good branding pays off. Well, sure, true enough, but that's the bumper sticker and it misses the actual point. Aflac didn't win because the insurance got better, because the insurance didn't get better, it was already great. It won because people finally remembered the name. And that's the part nobody wants to hear. When everybody's selling the same stuff, and trust me, in your world somebody is, it being the best on paper doesn't win. Being the one they remember does. If it's your resume in a stack of 400, if it's your side hustle, if it's your name brought up in a meeting when the good projects are getting handed out at work. The same rule the duck figured out. You're not competing to be the best. You're competing to be the first thing that comes to mind. So don't just be good. Be the one they can't forget. Think about that. So next time, we're going to go a little bit darker. Actually, a whole lot darker. Picture a company so powerful, it had its own army, its own navy, and its own money. A corporation that didn't just sell to a country, it conquered one. The East India Company. How a business became an empire, and what happens when there's nobody left who can tell it no. You're going to want to see that one. We'll see you then.